There are moments in tennis that never appear on scoreboards. Moments that don't come from a winner, a forehand, or a breakpoint, but from a closed-door conversation that changes everything. And this moment, belongs to Jannik Sinner. Earlier this week, in the quiet heat of Dubai, far from stadiums, cameras and ADP microphones, Sinner met privately with Darren Cahill, the mastermind behind some of the greatest transformations in modern tennis. A meeting nobody expected. A meeting nobody was supposed to know about. A meeting that may reshape the race for World No.1 in 2026. The session was short, quiet, deliberate, and according to sources inside Sinner's team, it wasn't about fitness, tactics, or the Australian swing. It was about something much bigger. Cahill, the former coach of Halep, Hewitt and Andre Agassi, has always believed that the difference at the highest level is not forehands or speed. It's mentality, timing, and knowing exactly when to change gears. And he told Sinner one thing, one sentence that stunned the whole team. If you want the #1 spot back, you must stop playing like the hunter. Because in Cahill's mind, Sinner's biggest problem is not Alcaraz. It's not Djokovic. It's not pressure. It's that Jannik still behaves like the polite underdog, the nice guy waiting for the moment to attack. Cahill wants a different version of Sinner. A darker one. A version that forces rivals to react, not breathe. A version who plays to dominate, not to counter. And this isn't theory. This meeting already changed Sinner's training. Witnesses at the Dubai session saw drills that Jannik never practiced before. Early strike patterns, taking the ball before the bounce peaks. Body serve aggression, forcing returns into defensive blocks. A new court positioning map, 4 steps inside the baseline. And the biggest change, decision speed repetitions, where he must choose a finishing shot in under half a second. All of this points in one direction. Sinner is preparing for Alcaraz. And only Alcaraz. Because Darren Cahill knows that you don't beat Carlos by waiting. You beat him by interrupting his rhythm, by closing space, by controlling the point before he even creates chaos. The meeting ended with a message Cahill repeated twice. If you hesitate at all, even for one shot, you lose the rally. Jannik nodded. Serious. Focused. Not smiling the way he usually does after training. This wasn't a friendly session. This was a recalibration of his entire mindset. And that's why analysts inside the ATP believe this meeting might be the beginning of a new era in the Sinner-Alcaraz rivalry. Because Alcaraz is explosive. Alcaraz is improvisational. Alcaraz is chaos with a racket. But Sinner, when tuned correctly, is a metronome with cannons. And if Cahill succeeds in transforming him into the aggressor first, the race for #1 doesn't just become competitive. It becomes war. What happened after that closed-door session in Dubai is perhaps even more revealing than the meeting itself. Because for the first time in months, Sinner's entire team changed their tone. Not publicly. In public, they repeat the same polite script. He's feeling good. He's focused on improving. We're taking it step by step. But behind the scenes? Sources say Cahill asked for one specific adjustment that shocked even the conditioning staff. Jannik needs to train like a #1, not like someone trying to reach #1. And that distinction is massive. Training like a #1 means less volume, more precision. Less grinding, more efficiency. Less repetition, and more decision-making. Because Cahill isn't trying to make Sinner stronger. He's trying to make him faster mentally, to close the micro-gap that separates him from Carlos Alcaraz. And that's where the meeting takes an even more interesting turn. Fire the Alcaraz factor. Every major coach in the world knows the same thing. If you want to beat Alcaraz, you must take away his oxygen. You cannot let him build rallies. You cannot let him improvise. You cannot let him dream. And you certainly cannot allow him to step inside the baseline and dictate tempo. What Cahill told Sinner is brutally simple. The longer the point goes, the more likely Alcaraz wins. So, the Dubai training became a laboratory of controlled aggression. First strike patterns limiting rallies to under 4 shots. Return position 2 meters deeper, but recovery 2 meters faster. Transition speed drills, forcing Sinner to go from neutral to offensive in a single step. Serve redirection routines, shifting serves from power to deception. This isn't the Sinner who waited for openings. This is the Sinner who creates them. And Cahill's message was even clearer. Play like someone who expects to win, not someone hoping to win. It shook Jannik. Because for years, Sinner's identity has been built around humility, patience, and silence. Traits that make him admirable, but perhaps not the most ruthless competitor in the world. And Darren Cahill knows exactly how to break that barrier. He did it with Simona Halep. He did it with Andre Agassi. He knows the blueprint. And now he wants Sinner to follow the same path. Eliminate hesitation. Eliminate politeness. Eliminate doubt. Fire the moment that changed the room. According to someone present at the session, Cahill stopped the drill suddenly, walked up to Sinner, and told him, "You're not playing against the world. You're playing against one man." Everyone in the room knew who he meant. Carlos Alcaraz. The man who stole Sinner's #1 dream. The man who keeps beating him in the biggest stages. The man whose chaos disrupts every game plan in tennis. And Cahill added a final sentence. "If you want that ranking back, you must break him before he breaks you. Not physically, mentally, strategically, emotionally. Because the battle for #1 is no longer about winning tournaments. It's about winning moments. Micro battles inside macro matches. And Cahill believes Jannik has all the tools, but not yet the mindset. That was the purpose of the meeting. To dismantle the old Sinner and rebuild a version capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most explosive player since young Nadal. Fire a new vision of 2026. And here's the part nobody expected. After the meeting, Sinner didn't go to his hotel. He stayed on the court 3 extra hours, running the same drill over and over. No cameras. No social media. No journalists. Just repetition with purpose. His team, exhausted, watched from the benches. Because what Cahill told him didn't just change a training session. It changed his season. Sinner's goal is no longer to compete for #1. His goal is to take it back. Permanently. And that shift, that internal fire, that new identity, may be the beginning of a completely new rivalry dynamic. Alcaraz the improviser. Sinner the machine. Chaos versus precision. Youthful instinct versus strategic evolution. And now, for the first time, Sinner is preparing to become something he has never been before. The aggressor, the dominator, the hunter turned predator. The race for #1 just changed. And nobody, not even Alcaraz, saw this coming. When the doors closed again later that afternoon, Cahill shifted the session into a completely different gear. Because now it wasn't about training. It wasn't about tactics. It wasn't even about Alcaraz. It was about Sinner himself. And according to people present, this is where Cahill delivered the most uncomfortable truth of the entire meeting. A truth that only a coach who really knows you dares to say. "Jannik, your biggest weakness is that you don't know how strong you really are. Not technique. Not fitness. Not mentality. Not shot selection. Identity." Because while Alcaraz walks onto the court like a storm waiting to explode, Sinner walks like a silent engineer checking every wire before turning on the machine. Precision versus chaos. Awareness versus instinct. But Cahill believes that Sinner's awareness, his calmness, sometimes becomes a prison. He hesitates where Carlos improvises. He calculates where Carlos launches himself into madness. He observes where Carlos attacks. Cahill explained it brutally clear. Against 90% of the tour, your discipline wins. Against Alcaraz, discipline alone is not enough. And that sentence hit the room like a cold wind. Fire the truth about the rivalry. Everyone knows the numbers. Alcaraz wins the chaotic points. Alcaraz wins the 50-50 rallies. Alcaraz wins the momentum moments. Alcaraz wins when the match becomes emotional instead of logical. And Cahill knows that if Sinner wants the #1 spot back, he cannot simply play his game. He needs something else. He needs a weapon that disrupts the Alcaraz universe. And this is where we get to the secret drill. Fire the drill only Cahill could invent. For 40 minutes, Cahill forced Sinner into a session that shocked even the fitness coaches. High-pressure chaos points. Balls fed at random speeds. Angles impossible to predict. No patterns. No instructions. No rhythm. No time. Exactly the world that Alcaraz thrives in. The goal was simple. Break Sinner's need for control. Train his brain to react, not calculate. Force him to live inside uncertainty. At first, Sinner struggled. He mistimed balls. He chose the safe option. He played with caution. And then Cahill shouted something that changed the entire energy of the drill. Stop thinking like Jannik. Start thinking like a world #1. Something switched. The hesitation disappeared. The footwork sharpened. The forehand exploded from safety mode into attack mode. He moved into the ball instead of away from it. For the first time that day, Sinner embraced chaos. And he won the drill. When he finished, exhausted, Cahill just nodded and said, "That is the version of you that can beat Carlos." Fire the moment that shocked the staff. During a short break, Sinner asked Cahill a question that no one expected. "Do you really think I can dominate him?" "Not beat. Not challenge. Dominate." Cahill didn't hesitate. "If you didn't have the tools, I wouldn't be here. But it's time you stop playing like a guest in your own era." That line circulated among the staff all night, because it revealed something deeper. Cahill doesn't want Sinner to chase Alcaraz. He wants Sinner to define the era. Fire the conclusion of the session. By the end of the meeting, it was clear. This wasn't a normal preseason conversation. This was a psychological reboot. A transformation. Cahill was building a Sinner who attacks first, controls tempo, plays with instinct, not doubt, breaks chaos with calculated aggression, stops fearing the emotional waves Alcaraz creates. Because the battle for #1 in 2026 will not be decided by who trains more, but by who evolves faster. Alcaraz is the natural-born disruptor. Sinner is the engineered precision weapon. And Cahill, perhaps more than anyone else in tennis, believes that the weapon can be sharpened into something unstoppable. The question now is simple. Will Sinner embrace this new identity? Or will Alcaraz pull him back into the old rhythm? The rhythm where Carlos thrives and Jannik survives? The answer is coming. And today's meeting might be the turning point history looks back on. When the training session ended and the sun began to fall over Dubai, a silence filled the court. Not exhaustion. Not relief. Something much heavier. Realization. Everyone in that room, physios, analysts, sparring partners, understood they had just witnessed the beginning of something that could reshape the entire 2026 season. Because Cahill didn't just challenge Sinner. He reprogrammed him. And what came next was the real reason this meeting will be remembered. Fire the three-phase plan to take down Alcaraz. Cahill didn't hide it. He didn't sugarcoat it. He laid the blueprint down like a general preparing for war. Phase 1. Break the predictability. Sinner's patterns are clean, efficient, intelligent, and readable. Alcaraz reads patterns like a hacker reads code. Cahill wants to redesign the code. More serve and volley. More early aggression. More forehands from inside the baseline. More variation in height, spin, trajectory. Less patience. More disruption. If he guesses wrong twice per game, the match is yours. Phase 2. Emotional neutralization. This was the part that stunned the whole room. Cahill explained that Alcaraz doesn't just hit winners. He steals emotional momentum. Crowd roars. Alcaraz grows. Chaos rallies. Alcaraz thrives. Momentum swings. Alcaraz accelerates. So Cahill is introducing a psychological strategy. Never celebrate too big. Never show frustration. Never let Carlos feel like he's pulling you into his world. Slow down the rhythm after big points. Speed up the rhythm when Alcaraz hesitates. Silence him by silencing the match. It's genius. It's brutal. And it's exactly what beat Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic at their peak. Controlling tempo, not just points. Phase 3. The identity shift. The final phase of the plan is the hardest, because it requires Sinner to stop being who he was. Not the quiet prodigy. Not the polite genius. Not the next great player. Cahill looked at him and said, "You are not the future of tennis anymore. You are the present." Start acting like it. For a moment, Sinner didn't say a word. But his body language changed. Subtly, decisively. He stood straighter. He breathed differently. He looked Cahill in the eyes with something new. Ownership. Fire, the moment that shocked even Cahill. As everyone packed up, Sinner walked back toward the coach. In a quiet voice, almost a whisper, he said, "If I commit to this, do you think I become the best?" Cahill didn't smile. He didn't joke. He didn't soften the answer. He simply replied, "You don't become the best. You replace the best." And that line will echo through 2026. Fire, the final scene. A warning to the tour. As Sinner left the court, drenched in sweat and thought, Cahill gathered the remaining staff. He said one final sentence that wasn't meant to leak, but it did. If Alcaraz thinks he knows Jannik, he's about to meet a new one. That is the real meaning of the Dubai meeting. Not just training, not just strategy, not just preseason. It was a transformation, a rebirth, a declaration that the calm, methodical, disciplined Jannik Sinner is evolving into a version designed not to survive Alcaraz, but to surpass him. And if this version appears in Melbourne, the race for #1 will change forever.